If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I have some more DC Comics news. So we're all kind of interested in future state. Obviously, DC Comics is going to go on like a 2-month sabbatical, a little hiatus, as they get things ramped up ready for their March relaunch of the lines. We're going to do all the new creative teams. Obviously, you know, James Tynan's still going to be on Batman. I think Mariko Tamaki is definitely still going to be on Wonder Woman. But for the most part, we're going to get all new creative teams. You know, we're going to get a new Superman creative team. We're going to get a new creative team on Green Lantern, Justice League, stuff like that. You know, I got some things that I'm hoping for, but that's not this video. But we do have a little bit of new information because the solicits for the Penguin Random House graphic novels that are going to be released in June. The trades that are collecting all these. So we've got some updates on the names, and they certainly imply things. There's also a little bit of new information that's not contained in the solicitation information that we received for the individual comics themselves. And then I'm also going to talk about how, while in theory this is an alternate version of the DC Comics universe, but there's a lot of proof right now that these events and this future of DC Comics that is presented in Future State is actually going to have a lot of impact as far as DC Comics moving forward, you know, especially with their Batman line. It appears Superman as well as the Teen Titans. I'm going to talk about that, how we have some proof that that's actually definitely happening. And also, did you know that Aquaman had a wedding? Aquaman and Mira married this week. I don't think anybody even realized because DC Comics didn't promote it. And I think most people that were reading the Aquaman series kind of dropped it when Kelly Sue DeTonic came on. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here at the end as well. Before I get into the details, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy these videos. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to know your thoughts on about the information you receive on Future State. Specifically, is Billy Batson dead? It appears that might be the case. And I'm going to have some other details as well as far as how Batman, Detective, Superman, Teen Titans are kind of heading towards Future State. Maybe it's not as disconnected as we all thought. So the biggest potential spoiler, obviously, was actually on the thumbnail. It is about Billy Batson. That is going to be collected in the Future State Suicide trade, which is going to be $20. How many pages? Well, there it is. It's going to be 240 pages. Not a bad deal, actually. You would need to look at the page count of some of these others for the price. And we see that a lot of especially in the Suicide Squad trade, a lot of the name changes are happening in here as far as the title of the comics. And we collect Future State Suicide Squad. Okay, no change there. Future State Teen Titans Dead of Class. That is absolutely changed. But here, Future State Shazam, the death of William Batson. So it appears Billy Batson is going to be dead, or that's what they're hinting at here. Now, if you've been a fan of Billy Batson Shazam, you probably enjoyed Jeff Johns' run, but you also probably didn't enjoy him being part of the Infected that were included in with You're the Villain. It seemed like they decided to take any type of character in the DC universe that was had a hopeful outlook and you know, wasn't completely grim at the moment, and decided to add them into the You're the Villain Infected crap, which I was not a big fan of. And this is what it says about Billy Batson. Billy Batson made a deal with the devil and has to uncover who is now controlling the mightiest mortal's power to wreak havoc. So we have another very hopeful character, almost like Peter Parker, making a deal with the devil in one more day. Billy Batson has made a deal with the devil. Now, it says the death of William Batson. So I wonder if this is the spirit of Billy Batson, maybe trying to discover the new Shazam or something like that. And maybe he's not actually physically alive anymore. It certainly implies that within the name of the collection itself. I don't know. Is it a good idea to kill off Billy Batson? Do you want to see Billy Batson make a deal with the devil and have to go discover who is now wielding the power of Shazam? I don't know. I think it's kind of. I hate to see it when it happens to a character like this. There's so many stories out there with Batman that you can kind of pick and choose. There's so many stories out there with Superman you can pick and choose. Even Wonder Woman in a lot of the Justice League. But there's not a lot of new Shazam material out there to do something. It feels like it's probably going to be dark and grim. Probably is a letdown to a lot of Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, Shazam fans. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, one of the ones that I'm really interested in is Swamp Thing. With that's had a name change as well. Future State Swamp Thing, Obsidian Sun. So they've changed the name of a lot of these series. Here, Swamp Thing made a treacherous choice in the past that made doom his future. Of course, everybody in Future State made a terrible decision. And we know Teen Titans are going to be fighting off against Red X. There's a couple of the other ones that have some changes. Future State Wonder Woman. Obviously, we know that Wonder Girl is spinning out not only as a comic, but as a show on the CW. And that is going to feature Yara Flor. But when we go into the Penguin Random House solicits, she is referred to as Maria Flor here. I wonder which one is correct. It felt like the Yara Flor stuff was like recent press release information. I think maybe originally the character was named Maria Flor and they just haven't updated it, or they didn't send the new information to Penguin Random House for the solicitations of their trade paperback. There is a little new, just a tiny bit of new information as far as the Superman. We know Future State Superman in Metropolis, Future State Worlds at War, Future State Superman Imperious Lex, Future State Kara-Zor-El. But then we get Future State Legion 5000. So apparently the Legion of Superheroes story, which is going to be Brian Michael Bendis, I don't know why they didn't bring on a new creator. Almost everything but, well, even Wonder Woman did. It's not Marika Tamaki writing Wonder Woman. She's writing Batman. Everybody got a new creative team except for the Legion of Superheroes of being treated so poorly. But apparently that's going to be taking place 5,000 years in the future. It's not just the year 3100, whatever it is that the Legion of Superheroes are normally set in. So that's the information we have on that one. Was there any new information on Justice League? In the far future, our Earth is cut off from the multiverse, and an all-new Justice League must investigate a string of murders. So apparently the multiverse has been cut off. They no longer travel between them, and they'll have to reconnect them. I don't think there's anything new in the next Batman or Dark Detectives that I could see. If you saw these yourself and you see something, let me know in the comment section. I would really appreciate it. But we do have a lot of evidence that the stories that are contained in here might be in the distant future, but we're going to see the beginnings of them within the actual DC Comics. We know that the story for the next Batman, where essentially the magistrate has taken over Gotham City, and it's basically a police state, and the peacekeepers are the ones keeping the peace. We know that James Tynion, he just talked about it in an interview. He's talked about it in his Tiny Onion newsletter that he's doing, that one of the characters that he's introducing, I believe, along with Jorge Jimenez in his upcoming Batman series stories after the return in March, is going to be focusing on a character called Peacekeeper 1, I believe, and it's going to be kind of a precursor to the Magistrate and stuff like that. And he also mentions in that same interview that if you are a fan of Red X and you're excited about that being in the Teen Titans Future State Dead of Class series, that you will be seeing Red X likely in the upcoming Teen Titans book that's relaunching in March. But there's more information than this, that we actually have physical proof this week, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. In this week's Detective Comics, I believe it's issue 1030, they're starting to develop a character called, I believe it's Nakano. He's running for mayor, and he's a former member of the GCPD. And during Joker War, he loses his eye in a conflict. This part here on the left is actually a dream that he has, but he clearly holds Batman responsible for the loss of his eye. And he is going to run for mayor, and he's running for mayor on like a platform that the villains and the heroes in capes are all equally responsible for what has happened to Gotham, and he wants to persecute them all and get rid of them all. Obviously, that ties directly into what it sounds like we're getting in Future State with the Magistrate, who was basically brought in as like a private police force to get Gotham under control. and then essentially to weed out the capes and the heroes out of Gotham City. That's why everyone believes Bruce Wayne's dead. Obviously, we know from the solicits that he isn't. He's just on the run. But so they're developing this character Nakano. He does not like heroes. He's running for mayor. This is in Detective Comics, and it's obvious that this is kind of leading into the events of Future State, along with the information that we have from James Tynion with his Batman. They're going to start introducing some of the characters that are going to play a key role in what we're going to read in Future State. We're going to kind of meet them afterwards and see how we kind of got there. And James Tynion does mention that it's not like 100% the same, like what we see in Future State isn't going to be exactly the way that we see it leading up to it, but it's certainly heavily influencing it. And then we also see later in Detective Comics, there's a big meeting of the Bat family, and they all get together and they're talking, and they're like, Batman, you brought this is your meeting, and he's like, I didn't do this, Nightwing did. Nightwing's like, I didn't do this, you did it. And then they realize that they're being ambushed. That is actually the citizens of Gotham who have set up this ambush for them, and they're trying to take out the Bat family, showing that the sentiment of Gotham is turned on Batman and his family, and they're trying to kind of take them out. And you can see the citizens are all saying, no more bats, no more bats. They want to root them out of the city of Gotham. Obviously, that's leading directly into Future State. So this idea that Future State is just some alternate future that may or may not happen isn't exactly true. What we're seeing in Batman, from the words of James Tynion, what we're definitely seeing right now in Detective Comics are leading into Future State. Now, James Tynion says it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's certainly very, very similar. And we've already heard that what they were doing in Superman, as far as Superman revealing his identity, he was going to eventually bottle up the city of, I thought it was Smallville, I guess it's Metropolis, but he was going to end up kind of joining with the Authority after everyone kind of turns on him and stuff like that. You can see they're building up to Superman, to what they're actually going to do in Future State as well. So the idea that Future State is just this one convergence event and it's never going to mean anything, well, sort of kind of could be true, but if you don't like what's in Future State, you're probably not going to like what's going to happen in DC Comics afterwards, because it appears that a lot of the series are moving towards that, at least in the short term, and I imagine it's probably part of the long-term plans as well. So if you don't like Future State, and you go and you read them, you're like, this isn't the Gotham that I want to see, you're probably not going to be happy, because that's the Gotham it looks like they're moving towards. If this isn't the Superman that you're happy with, turning his back on humanity and secluding himself on Warworld isn't the Superman for you, you might not like the future of Superman. If you don't like Red X and Teen Titans, you might not like Teen Titans coming out of this. And I imagine there's going to be even more stuff coming out of when we get the new creative teams and the new direction in March. There's going to be more stuff in the ongoing DC titles that are actually tying directly into Future State. So I think it's very interesting. I don't think DC Comics has done a very good job promoting what Future State is and what to expect, or even making it seem like it's important, because it appears that it actually is important if you're interested in the future of DC Comics. Now, getting on to something a little bit different, and something more in the now that probably, well, I guess it is kind of playing in the Future State. We know Arthur Curry and Mira have a child, and they're going to be the next Aquaman. They're being mentored. Mira and Arthur got married. This was the 65th issue of Aquaman, the last issue. I believe they're going to probably reboot it with the #1. Kelly Sue DeConnick is definitely not going to be the writer. She's confirmed that when we get the new March creative teams. And I don't know, did you even know that they were getting married? Normally you would expect to see a bunch of invites in the comic books. That those were in there. I didn't even notice them. You would have expected to see a bunch of, I don't know, news press clippings and stuff, all over the geek site said, hey, there's a wedding, you're cordially invited. None of that was in there. It feels like they just threw this in there. I don't know, I guess because they planned it, but they didn't make a big deal of it. I thought like a wedding issue is supposed to be a big seller. It's supposed to be like a keepsake or something, like something for collectors. You get a bunch of extra variant covers and stuff, and they try to sell the hell out of it. But I think it almost feels like DC Comics was embarrassed that this is how they were getting married, and they're getting married at the end of this series. Like, why even go through with it? Obviously it's just the last page. Well, I guess it's a few more pages. Mira is essentially surprised by Wonder Woman and some other female heroes. They're like, "Oh yes, we're your bridesmaids." She's like, "What's going on?" And then it turns out she's getting married. I don't know. It feels like a big wah wah moment. Like, who cares? This should probably feel like a big deal, but it feels like, I think it's more of a sign of relief. I'm just glad Kelly Sue DeConnick's off of Aquaman. Maybe I can go read the series again, because I was really enjoying it under Dan Abnett. I think they really dropped the ball. They dropped the ball a lot when they changed out their Rebirth creators, especially on Superman. That was a terrible decision. They were really wishy-washy on Nightwing. They finally got a good creator that I was like, man, Ben Percy's going to kill it. Boom, immediately, Rick Grayson, give him amnesia, and then he had different plans for it, so they brought in Scott Lobdell. That didn't work. Brought in Dan Jurgens. That didn't work. I don't know, the guy that's replaced Flash was Kevin Shinnick. Did not enjoy that at all. I think the only one that's really worked out for him probably was James Tynion on Batman, because by the end of Tom King's run, it was so bad. I think everyone was just ready for a new writer. Although, people seem to really be enjoying it, certainly more than I am. But I don't know. Did you know that Aquaman and Mira got married? Are you excited about it? Were you excited about it? It feels like DC weren't excited about it. I think they were like I said, they were embarrassed. They just kind of wanted it to happen and just be done with it. And that's too bad, because these characters obviously have a long history together. Sometimes, they've been allies, they've been enemies, they kind of turn on each other. Arthur was, kicked out of the kingdom, and she was the queen of Atlantis. And, finally they're back together and married, and hopefully happily married, and they don't undo it with another crisis event. I don't know. After Dark Knight's death metal, I guess we're never going to get a crisis again. Wouldn't be the worst thing. I just thought it was funny that they had this big wedding and nobody knew about it. No one ever said, "Hey, did you see the wedding?" I don't think anyone even realized there was a wedding. That'll basically do today's video. Just a little bit of information as far as Future State. It appears that Billy Batson is dead in Future State, and he's made a deal with the devil. Is it Yara Flor? Is it Maria Flor? Who knows? And the new Justice League team has been cut off in the multiverse. We got new titles for the Teen Titans series, the Swamp Thing series, and Future State is definitely going to have a bigger impact on what DC Comics is doing after, when they return from March and they're letting on. I think it's going to have it appears that it could have a very big impact. So might not be as easily skippable if you're a DC Comics fan as we all had initially thought, but we shall see. And Aquaman's wedding, what a dud. Should have been a big deal. It was a nothing burger. That's what happens when you put Kelly Sue DeConnick on one of your primary characters. I'm still shocked that they put her on a character that had $1 billion movie. Not a very good idea.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.